Good afternoon, Sarukman and fellow friends. So today we're going to discuss about IKEA. But before we move on further to the topic that we want to discuss about IKEA, I want to ask you guys first. Do you guys know what IKEA is? And what is the first thing that pop up in your mind when you first heard about IKEA? So maybe Ayla can help answering this question.
I think when I heard about the word IKEA, the first thing that pops up in my mind is basically a furniture store that sells really great food as well, and I think it's based on Sweden.
Okay, thank you so much, Ayla. So most of us would probably recognize IKEA as a place that sells affordable furniture with blue and yellow logo, and probably their signature meatball, which is also a very famous dish from the Sweden. But behind all that, IKEA is actually working on the biggest sustainability transformation in the retail industry. So today, me, Lavinia, and also Ayla, and we're from the Introduction to Environmental Science class, Section B, and today we're going to discuss on how IKEA is shifting from a traditional linear economy towards a circular business model, which is a system where products are designed to last longer, be reused, recycled, and also repaired. So, in order to help all of you to understand more about what is IKEA's circular business model, we will bring you all through their SWOT analysis. What are the ISO standards that they use to support their transformations? What are the four phases of circular business model innovation that they use, and what are the key actors that involve in their transformation phase? Okay, so first we're going to discuss about their SWOT analysis, which stands for their strength, weakness, opportunities, and also threats. Let's begin with IKEA's strength first. So first, they have a very strong strategic commitment, which is circularity. And circularity is actually already part of their long-term strategy. And they also develop an advanced circular design capabilities, which use 8 circular principles across all their 9,500 products. And on top of that, they run a circular services such as circular hubs and also buyback programs that's supported by a strong ecosystem of suppliers such as the NGOs and also the Ellen MacArthur Foundations. And this shows that IKEA already has a global foundation needed to become circular. And in my opinion, IKEA's strongest advantage is its global influences, and when IKEA moved towards a circularity, it pushes other companies to follow as well. Okay, next we're going to discuss about their weaknesses. So, based in despite all their advantages, IKEA also faces a lot of problems, and their weaknesses is something that we must understand as well. One big issue is cultural resistance, as IKEA is shifting from linear company towards a circular business model, and especially among their senior employees who have worked hard the same way for decades, changing habits from a linear company towards a circular business model is very difficult from them, and it slows down innovation. And another weakness is they experience in difficulty of scaling. IKEA might be successful in running a circular program in Sweden, because as we all know they're based in Sweden, but when they try to apply it, for example, in IKEA in Indonesia, or for example India, or even in the US, the infrastructure, the suppliers, as well as the customer behavior are completely different, and this inconsistency make their global circularity very challenging. And lastly, they also their circular services are not very profitable, as repairing and also their buyback programs require extra labor and also logistic, but customers still at the same time expect a very cheap prices, and this means that circular ideas are still not financially sustainable in long or in short term. And in my opinion, these weaknesses doesn't mean that IKEA is failing, but they actually shows us how the transition from moving from a linear company towards a circular business innovation require a very high in changing mindsets, systems, and especially as business logics. Okay, next we have the opportunities. So for opportunities, IKEA actually have a lot of them. But first, they can first shift toward a product as service where customer can rent furnitures instead of buying it. And These models actually create a more long-term revenue as well as encourages a better maintenance and repair, as they also have opportunities in creating new business teams such as repair workshop, or even reselling secondhand items or selling spare parts, which not only supports the circularity but also opens new customer segments. And most importantly, the global business market is changing as the government are pushing more towards the sustainability regulations, and customers are becoming more eco-conscious towards the environment. And this creates a very strong external push that benefits big companies such as IKEA. And in my point of view, these opportunities could reshape how people think about furniture entirely, from something that is usually can be disposable, but into something that can circulate for years. Okay, so next we have the threat. So IKEA has to also know how to manage their threat. So some companies that IKEA operates, such as Indonesia maybe, are lacking in recycling and also repairing infrastructure. And there are also different regulations across the markets. And IKEA also depends on heavily partners like waste companies, and circular transformation may require a very high upfront investment. And this matter because the circular economy cannot be implemented alone. So IKEA needs a supportive environment. And in my opinion, infrastructure is the biggest threat, as even the circular product will fail if the system around it cannot support the system of reusing and also recycling. Okay, we're going to discuss next about the relevant ISO standards. So what are the ISO standards that supports IKEA's circular journey? So there are four of it. The first one is ISO 14001, which is about environmental management system, and they help in managing environmental impact and also the waste of IKEA. And the second one is ISO 20887, which focuses on the design for the assembly and adaptability, which guides design for the assembly and also the modularity of the IKEA. And for the third one, we have ISO 14040, which focuses on the life cycle assessment that supports life cycle assessment for products of IKEA, for all products of IKEA. And for the fourth one, we have ISO 9001, which focuses on the quality management that ensures the quality consistency across all suppliers of IKEA's product. So in my opinion, the ISO standards help IKEA to stay consistent globally, especially since each country that IKEA operates has different regulations and law. Okay, next we're going to discuss about the four phases of a CBMI, which stands for the Circular Business Model Innovation. So there are four phases of the Circular Business Model Innovation, which the first one is visioning, sensing, seizing, and also in transforming. And what are all these for? The first one is visioning. It is actually setting the long-term circular goals, such as the IKEA's 2030 commitment, which they wanted to be more sustainable, creating a more sustainable furniture towards the environment. And the second one is sensing, which is identifying opportunities and trends. As I already mentioned before, they must know what are their opportunities and what are the trends that are regulating right now in the society. And for the third one is seizing, which is creating strategies and also pilot projects. And for the fourth one is transforming, which is scaling and also embedding circular practices across the country, as IKEA has a lot of IKEA operates in many different countries, so they must know how to operate the circular system across all their country. And these phrases shows how companies move aside from ideas to the real implementation. And in my opinion, the transforming phrase is actually the most challenging part of it, because it involves in the changing of system, people, as well as processes. Okay, moving on next, we are going to discuss about what are the key actors in the transforming phase of IKEA. So it is divided into two, the key actors. we have the first one is the direct actors, and the second one is the indirect actors. So the direct actors is actually the one driving IKEA's circular transformation that includes IKEA themselves, their employees, their customers, their suppliers, manufacturer, waste management companies, the NGOs, and also the Ellen MacArthur Foundation. And in my opinion, the variety of actors is actually a strength which each different group can have their own expertise, and IKEA alone doesn't have it, and they can help each other in creating a better uh, environment of IKEA circular business model. And for the indirect actors include a policymaker, certification bodies, and academic institutions, and they influence IKEA through their law, standards, as well as research. And in my opinion, circular transformations work if only the surrounding environment we are able to support it. So indirect actors are just as crucial as the direct one. Okay, so why did they matter for the direct actors and also indirect actor? So for the direct actor can reshape and also implement and also influences the circular processes by having diverse actors can increases like their creativity and also problem solving because each of every of them has their unique expertise, as we can see in the quotation in the case study. And for the indirect actors, they actually don't work directly inside IKEA, but they create conditions that may enable the circular transformations. And without a supportive policy as well as infrastructure, IKEA cannot fully implement their circularity program to the fullest. So indirect actors are just as important as we can see in the quotation. Thank you.
All right, so what are the challenges that IKEA faced when scaling global circular initiatives to a global level? So IKEA struggles to scale local circular initiatives globally because of local condition, infrastructures, and also capability that differs globally from place to place. And this creates inconsistency and also limits global spreads. IKEA also faces challenges in where successful trial runs can't be imitated globally due to a different local ecosystems. And several key factors also contributes towards these difficulties, such as differences in local infrastructures, dependency on local partners, difficulty in keeping carbon emissions low globally, and the need for profitability and also organizational alignment. And these are three quotations from the reference that can be a proof of this statement. And how does IKEA's circular transformation basically illustrates the role of collaboration and also ecosystem dependency? So IKEA's circular business economy involves many segments, and it proves how circularity cannot be achieved alone, and that it requires deep collaboration with suppliers, NGOs, local partner, waste companies, and also policymakers. And collaborating matters in IKEA's transformation as different actors provides different expertise in their field, and circularity needs coordinated actions, and that co-creation with strategies that are developed together accelerates innovation. A diverse high-rise ecosystem is essential to IKEA's transformation as proof on how circularity requires rethinking system on not just technology, and at the heart of sustainable is collaboration. And here are two quotations that supports this statement. All right, so these are our task delegations from me and Lavinia towards our final presentation. And that is all for our final presentation for Environmental Science B class. Thank you so much all for listening. I hope the material is beneficial to everyone. Thank you.